are these people?
So this is a story actually you brought to me last week in reference to the John Legend segment that we covered. So by the way, if you want to watch that segment, you can in our play. It's up in our playlist. So this will kind of essentially be a part two to that. So John Legend mentioned that he was, so just to recap, John Legend got some critiques online given that he did it, but he performed at a concert in Kigali, Rwanda, which people were like, why should you do that? Because they're complicit in what's happening in Congo. And John Legend basically gave some wish-washy answer, basically being like, I can disagree with my leaders, but I can't punish the people who want to see me, essentially is what he said. So basically it was like, I'm going to do this concert anyway. Global Citizen is the organization that essentially funded him in order to, well, he said this was volunteer. But Global Citizen was the organization that promoted and marketed his concert in Kigali. I've known of Global Citizen for a while. I was really unclear as to what they do. It just seemed like a foo-foo organization that looks to the West in terms of kind of like like those African, ads that we saw in the 80s and 90s, like Save the Children or whatever, that kind of thing. To bring awareness
Sarah
to what's
McLachlan.
happening. Yeah, kind of like in the global South or whatever.
Who was that old white man that would do it? I remember him. He'd sit in front of some African baby covered in mosquitoes with Arms of an Angel playing. Someone remembers in chat.
I don't remember. Let's know in the chat.
He looked like the Jurassic Park guy. That's what I think of. Like the old man in Jurassic Park. That guy. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. So, but according to the Grayzone, shout out to them for their reporting, they're a lot more nefarious than what they appear to be. So, to help us get an idea of who they are, we're going to play this clip just to get you guys to know what they say they are, and then we'll get into the Grayzone's covering to see who they really are behind the scenes. So go ahead.
Global Citizen is a movement for change, a community to improve the world, a gathering point for the people and organizations who want to end extreme poverty by 2030. Global Citizen is committed to bringing you the most interesting stories, effective actions, and powerful campaigns.
Learn about these issues, pick one, and just commit. The impact we've seen people make so far exceeds their own expectations.
Global Citizen enables individuals to take part in global development through on- and offline activism. Each action taken earns reward points for major events and your favorite artists.
Every year, this kind of, mixture between pop and policy comes together. And we see that the action button is the next evolution in our journey.
The action button allows newsreaders to participate in the stories they care about, to make taking action accessible, fast, and easy, securing real and effective outcomes for the world's poor.
This is going to have a global influence, and as we are becoming increasingly a global company, now already in 13 countries, this button is going to be available in every country, on every article where people can take action.
The actions of individual global citizens is what builds a movement, but together as a community, we strengthen campaigns from our partners, who are the most effective organizations out there. As a community, we find focus points to rally together and reward global citizens who have taken action. When we're together, we can amplify our collective voice to demand commitments from leaders of today to make the world of tomorrow.
I believe that we can speak with one voice.
There was massive humanity interested, engaged, listening, applauding, cheering. It was a magnificent, unique event.
This is what Global Citizen does. It brings together engaged individuals, the thinkers shaping our ideas, the organizations implementing the change we want, and the leaders capable of sustaining that change in the world we are all demanding. In short, it's a world where we can all be proud to live. Global Citizen needs you to build this world. Will you take action?
I didn't know sex was involved. That's funny.
Yeah, funny they didn't say which sponsors are involved. Funny they didn't say who.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they
shout out to
mentioned
the
some
Grayzone.
Davos, and yeah, that might put some conflicts over at the Grayzone if Jeffrey Sachs is involved, but
Right.
we'll see.
But shout out to the Grayzone for they tell us who. We'll get into that later. This is written by Ann Garrison from them, who writes, Billionaire-backed global citizen whitewashes Kagame's, he's the president of Rwanda's, invasion of the RDC. So she continues. Hold on, let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. John Legend's concert in Rwanda signaled global elite support for Paul Kagame and is amid his bloody invasion of the RDC. The event was organized by Global Citizen, a pseudo-activist NGO backed by corporations hungry for Africa's resource wealth. So on February 21st, as the Rwandan army deepened its invasion of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, John Legend took the stage in Rwanda's capital, Kigali. There, the superstar singer-songwriter headlined a Move Africa concert produced by Global Citizen, the international NGO Front for Global Elites, NATO, and a corporate world order which bills itself as the movement changing the world. The future that Global Citizen heralds is a borderless network of public-private partnerships in which oligarchs, global corporations, and the World Trade Organization profitably manage the world in the name of equity, sustainability, and climate defense. It's a future promised in the Davos Agenda and the UN Pact for the Future passed by the UN General Assembly in 2024. Russia, Belarus, Iran, Nicaragua, North Korea, Sudan, and Syria oppose the pact as a threat to national sovereignty.
As they should.
Global Citizen doesn't raise and disperse funds. It conducts global awareness campaigns to manufacture global consent. In this case, for the West's decades-long proxy war for RDC's unparalleled resource wealth, which has left millions of Congolese dead, and the rest of the country's population with one of the world's lowest per capita annual incomes. The NGO's corporate partners, which I said they don't say, include tech giants PayPal, Cisco, Worldwide Technology, Verizon, and YouTube. Shout out YouTube, all which depend to a larger extent of minerals extracted from the DRC. Oh, they're not going to like us for this at all. Others, including Citibank, are hardly known for commitment to human rights. Citibank is, in fact, implicated in the 2001 UN's investigators report on illegal resource traffic in the RDC.
Yeah.
DRC. Global Citizens Global Board of Directors includes executives from Citibank, Cisco, Delta, and a long list of global assets managers, along with the former prime ministers of Norway and Sweden, top UN agency officials, and officers of closely aligned billionaire-backed NGOs like the Open Societies Foundation of George Soros and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Its country and regional boards evince a special interest in Africa, the world's most resource-rich continent. Elites from Europe, Canada, Australia, and Africa are well represented there, but figures from Latin America and Asia are not, despite Global Citizen's growing presence on those continents. In November of this last year, the NGO will head to Brazil with Global Citizen Amazonia, the world's first impact concert in the Amazon, at the UN's 2025 COP. An impact concert? What kind of impact? So far, participants have been promised a collection of global and local artists who will celebrate major COP commitments, spot indigenous leaders, and amplify campaigns for climate action. Beyond that, the details are vague. More info coming soon, Global Citizen declares.
So,
go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems like we're going to take a ton of ticket money from people in the area and then do nothing with it other than to support leaders who are already exploiting them. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then I bet you a bunch of people are pocketing a lot of it. So Okay. Sure. You know, like whatever, performative bullshit. Continue.
The consummately bland and meaningless language that fills the NGO's website is clearly intended to gloss over any conflict or contradiction. But the blood-splattered backdrop to Global Citizen's Kigali concert was impossible to ignore. Well, John Legend did. And speaking of, it should come as no surprise that John Legend performed in Kigali as Rwandan troops advanced in DRC, continuing the 30-year genocide against Congolese people. Like Kagame, the singer has been cultivated for over a decade as a top-tier frontman for the neoliberal global elite. Back in 2012, the Davos-based World Economic Forum appointed Legend to its forum of young global leaders. This February, Global Citizen announced on its Instagram page that it was joined on the ground at Davos by 3 incredible artists, including John Legend himself. Though he has at times spoken out in support of Palestinian human rights, Legend elected to perform at the August 2024 Democratic National Convention in support of then Vice President Kamala Harris as she took ownership of the Biden administration's genocidal policy towards the besieged Gaza Strip. During his February 21st visit to the Kigali Genocide Memorial, Legend decried man's inhumanity to man, likening the Rwandan genocide to the Holocaust and the genocide of Native Americans, but omitted any mention of Gaza or Congo, genocides not granted the official status established by criminal indictments and Western-controlled international courts. We actually have a segment where we talked about 7 genocides that have occurred within the last century that most people do not know or has been talked about infrequently. You can go to our playlist. I think it's called 7 Deadly Genocides. You can go to our playlist for that if you're interested in watching that for more information. But anyway, Legend has lent his status to numerous milquetoast productions by Global Citizen. In 2020, he hosted and performed for the second year in a row at the Global Citizen Prize for Activism, which honored Black Lives Matter, billionaire philanthropist Warren Buffett,
who just spent like $200 million in Ukraine himself. So that's great. Sesame Street, you said?
Yeah.
Fucking goddamn
what
Kermit.
What more could any organization do to support the status quo? Confronted with criticism of its performance in Kigali, Legend insisted that he did not want to limit any country's economic opportunity because he disagreed with its government. However, back in 2019, he supported a proposed Hollywood boycott of U.S. states which had enacted limits on abortion rights. As a loyal Democrat, he has actively campaigned for Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and many of the party's down-ballot candidates, while severing his personal ties with his former artist collaborator Kanye West over his support for Donald Trump. Money talks, Legend said of his boycott of states with anti-abortion GOP leaders. Deploying his talents in support of NATO at the 2022 Grammy Awards, Legend debuted his slave liberation anthem, Free, in a choreographed spectacle that featured Ukrainian musicians and President Volodymyr Zelensky pleading for military support on a larger-than-life background screen. So yeah, very much Bono, the Black Bono, I would say. Some of you called out Bono as well for being involved in Global Citizen as well. Yes. On the Grammys official website, the National Academy for Recording Arts and Science trumpeted Global Citizen's concurring Stand Up for Ukraine extravaganza, which urges million followers to join one of the largest digital campaigns on social media by sharing why you support Ukraine and refugees anywhere. And didn't see that for Gaza or Congo. Granted, this was before October 7th, but as we've reported, there have been issues in Gaza for within the last century. Could have said something about them then and haven't. And you guys know why. Several days after the award ceremony, Global Citizen hosted an online propaganda rally for the Ukraine proxy war, presenting a series of online video messages from a long list of celebrities, including Julian Lennon performing his father's pacifist anthem, Imagine, in a room full of candles in service of the NATO military machine. One day after the social media rally, Global Citizen capped off its festival of propaganda with a real-life rally in Poland, one of the most ardent supporters of the U.S. war for Western capital and global corporations. Convened by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and at the time Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, it concluded in a grand global pledging summit that saw governments and corporations promise $4.6 billion in grants and $5.5 billion in loans to aid Ukrainian refugees and IDPs. Contributors included the European Commission, Canada, and a list of European nations. Lenders include the European Investment Bank and the Council of Europe Development Bank. It wasn't clear who the loans would go to, who would pay them back, or how. Coca-Cola, Nestle, Cisco, Google, and Bridgewater Associates, the world's largest hedge fund, were among the global corporations which contributed to demonstrate that they could be good global citizens too.
Yeah,
for
they
all
could
this, global
take all the resources for themselves. Should be fine. Right. You know.
For all of this, Global Citizen won an Anthem Award, a self-styled global do-gooder NGO whose mission is amplifying the voices that spark global change in support of a purpose-driven society. Of course, there could be no better way to advance such a lofty mission than standing up for a NATO proxy war in Ukraine that's left the country in ruin, while music washing a resource war in the heart of Africa, one that has left millions dead and the nation in chaos, while its prime investigator danced to the crooning of John Legend, bathed in red and blue light with Global Citizen emblazoned on his chest. So we're going to get more into this guy. Paul Kagame, talked about him many times on this show before, but we'll get a little bit more into why he's problematic. If you don't mind zooming in, Reef. Thank you. Rwandan President Paul Kagame is a darling for the global elite. He hobnobs with them annually at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, though he kept clear of the neoliberal confab this year, presumably to match the latest phase of his war in the DRC. Under Kagame's management, Rwanda has become a veritable laboratory for technocratic, Davos-driven experiments in global governments, from digital IDs and sustainable cities to mandatory or even forced vaccination. In 2022, one Rwandan told Deutsche Welle that he was handcuffed in order to receive the jab. Others fled the country to escape being ejected against their will.
Very safe and effective.
In 2022, Kagame began negotiating with U.S. Prime Ministers Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, and then Rishi Sunak to outsource migrants from war-ravaged areas of the Middle East to Rwanda for processing, asylum, and resettlement, demonstrating his readiness to volunteer his country as a dumping ground for the West's human smokers. Also talked about that story if you want to go in our playlist for that.
Yep.
In 2023, after 2 years of outcry and legal struggle, a UA court ruled that Rwanda was not a safe place to remove asylum seekers to, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer then declared the plan dead and buried on his first day in office. Kagame has also offered the Rwandan Defense Force in the service of Western military objectives on the African continent, most visibly now as an armed enforcer of interests of France's Total Energies in Mozambique. Total is gas, petrol, by the way. Now this is more the creepy shit. In 2017, Zionist influencer. Okay. All right.
We got first we got this guy. We got this guy at the WEF, and then we got this guy. Yay!
Right.
Everyone's favorite.
In 2017, Zionist influencer and sex she mentioned that. And sex toy salesman Rabbi, in parentheses, Shmuley Bo teaches World Values Network, presented Kagame with a prize for outstanding friendship with the Jewish people in the name of casino baron and pro-Netanyahu financier Sheldon Allison and his wife Miriam.
Yep.
Names we know, right?
Unfortunately.
A year later, Israel opened an embassy in Rwanda, with the Times of Israel heralding it as a bid to strengthen its diplomatic foothold in Africa.
Tell
one. All right. You know. All right. Zoom out. A bid to strengthen its diplomatic foothold in Africa, Israel and Rwanda have intertwined and reinforced their victims' narratives since 1995.
Of course.
That genocide / Holocaust.
Yeah. Can I zoom this? No. Here.
John Legend said he's aware of what's happening in DRC, but what does he know about the conflict? Why aren't he and global citizens as concerned by Rwandan troops in DRC as they are by Russian troops in Ukraine? Have they bothered to consider UN's investigators' abundant documentation of Rwanda's invasion, occupation, massacres, and atrocities in DRC, much of which has been summarized by the legacy press? On the day before John Legend's Kigali concert, the UN Security Council passed a resolution demanding that Rwanda's M23 militia immediately cease hostilities, withdraw from all areas that it controls, and fully reverse the establishment of the illegitimate parallel administrations in the DRC territory. It also called on Rwanda to withdraw all Rwandan defense forces from DRC and stop supporting M23. President Kagame continues to deny that Rwandan troops are in DRC. A Rwandan invading and occupying army is in direct command of M23. Further, the May 2024 UN Group of Experts report on the DRC documented the presence of 4,000 Rwandan troops inside Congo, more than M23. That report also stated RDF military interventions and operations in, I'm butcher this, Rushuru, Masisi, and Nyiragongo territories extend beyond mere support for M23 operations to direct and decisive involvement, allowing RDF and M23 to achieve military dominance in Petit Noir and rapid territorial expansion to the shores of Lake Edward. The deployment of advanced military technology and equipment bolstering joint M23 RDF operations, altering conflict dynamics, including by grounding all FARDC military air assets. The group of experts in December 2024 report stated M23 remained under the overall military command of General Sultani Makenga, who continued to receive instructions and support from RDF and Rwandan intelligence. Every M23 unit was supervised and supported by RDF Special Forces. The commanding of targeting operations and handling of high-tech weaponry by RDF were critical in conquering new territories. Systemic support by RDF to M23 and its de facto control over M23 operations continued. Gee, I wonder where they got a lot of their tech from.
You wonder. I don't. I know where it's coming from. Coming from over here, usually.
Reports of M23 atrocities have emerged continuously since the militia first began ravaging across Congo in 2012 through 2013. The 2012 UN experts report stated that Rwandan Defense Chief James Kabere sat on top of M23's chain of command. In 2014, a UN Security Council report stated that M23 had been responsible for mass killing civilians, killing, and naming women and children, forced displacement, and the forced recruitment of children. On January 26, Vivienne Delapierre, Deputy Special Representative for Protection and Operations of the UN Peacekeeping Mission in the DRC, reported that M23 and the Rwanda Defense Forces had launched an attack on the strategically important city of Goma and that these attacks continue to ravage the city, killing, injuring, traumatizing, and displacing civilians, and exacerbated the crisis. During the first week of February of this year, the deputy head of the UN mission in DRC reported that nearly 3,000 people had been killed after M23 seized Goma, the capital of DRC's North Kivu province. In mid-February, after M23 seized Bukavu, the capital of DRC's South Kivu province, the UN Human Rights Office accused it of summarily executing children, attacking hospitals and warehouses, destroying humanitarian aid, sexual violence, children and forced recruitment, and threatening journalists, human rights defenders, and members of civil society organizations. Sound familiar to you all?
Yep, it does.
This is just a short. This is just a short list. Short. Of M23 atrocities, and they're nothing new. UN investigators have documented atrocities and resource theft committed by Rwandan and Ugandan troops and their successive Congolese militias since Rwanda and Uganda invaded DRC, which was then Zaire, in 1996, and then again in 1998. So where will Global Citizen go next to cause more chaos? Don't hold your breath waiting for Global Citizen to produce concerts in the Revolutionary Alliance of Sahel states, where Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are fighting to free themselves from the yoke of neocolonialism. These aren't countries that consider themselves part of the purpose-driven global society changing the world one tweet, text, post, and petition signature at a time. Their leaders don't go to Davos. Since coming to power over the past 3 years, they have expelled French and U.S. military installations, mining companies, and media outlets, and have formed a federation committed to resisting neocolonialism and neoliberalism. They no longer belong to the Francophonie, France's equivalent of the British Commonwealth of previously colonized French-speaking nations. The other stop on John Legend's Global Citizen Tour was in Lagos, Nigeria, on February 25th. Since 2023, Nigeria has been headed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a U.S.-compliant billionaire committed to collaborating with the U.S. Africa Command, CARICOM, who has threatened an invasion of neighboring Burkina Faso on behalf of Western-backed ECOWAS military alliance. We talked extensively about him last year. You can also go to our playlist to see a lot of these stories we've talked about are now coming to fruition now. Look at this.
Yep.
As Click Karenberg and Alice Rubenstein reported to the Grayzone, I remember that article was written by both of them. Tinubu laundered millions of heroin dealers in Chicago and has been mired in corruption scandals ever since. According to a May 2024 Lloyds Bank report, nearly all of Nigeria's economic sectors are open to foreign investment, allowing for 100% foreign ownership, and its recent pro-market reforms have led to a rise in quote-unquote capital importation to USD $1.1 billion. Global Citizen reports on Nigeria are entirely aglow about citizen initiatives with nothing about leadership's corruption. In September 2023, President Tinubu rang the closing bell at the NASDAQ exchange and announced that Nigeria is open for business. So,
sounds familiar.
Very long. But as you now know, well, you gave me the story, so you do know. But for everyone in the chat, so that's why in short, this is why Global Citizen is problematic. They are front to Western imperialism and using these concerts. It just reminds me of like American Express, like, or any credit card, like you pay into activism and then you get points in order to see these performers perform. But yeah, it's just a front for the atrocities that they want to commit in Africa and now I guess seemingly in Latin America in order to pillage their resources. And again, as we kind of talked about Rwanda, given wealth, quote unquote, stolen wealth from which the West can divvy up among themselves. So, basically it's just a front for African leaders to wage war on their neighbors as proxies of the West. I'm done. So if you have anything more you want to say.
No. I mean, sounds familiar. Sounds about like Haiti and plenty of other places where we decide to get ourselves involved for resources. So, but well, you know how it goes. Talking about these things, that's why we're demonetized. So scan that QR code, go to the URL, co-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, or it's in the description below. You know, give us some dollary dues. We deserve it. We work hard. But if you can't give monetarily, we get it. Like, subscribe. Very simple. Share this video. Send this to your friends who like John Legend. I don't care. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for watching.